Hello everyone, welcome to my channel about writing stuff. My name's Camille and today we are talking all about themes. Now I am getting over a cold so I sound stuffy as hell, but try to disregard that. Anyway, so theme. What is the theme of a story? In basic terms, it's what your story's about. It is that underlying sort of theme. It is that underlying idea that's spread throughout your whole story. Romeo and Juliet, the theme could be love. Wizard of Oz, the theme could be about adventure or good versus evil. Harry Potter, the theme definitely good versus evil. Of course, all of these works have multiple themes, but that's the general idea. Your theme, and I struggled with this for a very long time when I first started writing, but the theme is that underlying tone that is spread throughout your whole story, and it really inflects upon your main character. How they change, it starts with your character's arc, and this theme helps with the character change, or the character growth, or the character decline if you're writing some sort of tragedy or where your character becomes evil or something like this. But your theme can be anything. But your theme is very much connected to the character, and having this full threaded theme throughout the story makes a story feel whole. Like I said, I struggled with this very much when I first started writing. And my first book in particular had this problem where the beginning chunk of my story, the theme was clearly family and about sisterhood and siblinghood and taking care of each other. And then I get a quarter into the book and all of a sudden the theme is about love and good versus evil. And then I get into the next part of the book and the theme is isolation and loneliness. And then it's about, overcoming or whatever. And I didn't drag my themes all the way through the plot. What happened is I had a different theme for like every chunk of my story, and it made the story feel like fragmented pieces. It did not add to the wholeness of this tale. And I've said this before, the thing about plot is that it isn't just a sequence of events. Plot is a sequence of events that are all connected and that are all necessary to get to this ending. And that's the same thing with theme. When you have the same running theme or the same multiple running themes throughout a story, that helps stitch everything together. That helps to weave together the fabric of all these different parts and make it feel like one thing. It's very powerful once you can wrangle this idea of theme. But like I said, for me, it was really hard. So a couple ideas of what your themes could be. It can be good versus evil. It could be overcoming something. It could be chaos versus order. It could be this idea of isolation and loneliness. It could be about the evils of money. It could be about knowledge, having too much knowledge, the dangers of having too much knowledge, etc. And a theme isn't to be confused with like the message or the moral of the story, although your theme could be used to help relay your message or your moral to the reader. But like I said, a theme should be running throughout the entirety of your story, and it should really add to your character's growth. So another cool thing you can do with themes, and let me backtrack a little bit. When I first started writing, I didn't think about themes really at all. I say all the time that, my biggest tip for writing is to really get inside the head of your character. But another tip too is, and the more important tip really, is to write. To read and to write. The thing about art in general is the more that you do it, you create so many pieces of art, and then you get to a point where you can look back on your old art and say, wow, I finally see so many things wrong with this. And then you create so many more pieces of art, And then you can look back on those earlier pieces and say, oh, I see so much wrong with this, but I also know how to fix it. And that's what's important. It's getting to a place where you've created so many stories and written so many stories that you not only can see what's wrong with it, but you can see how to fix it. And theme falls into that category for me. I'm really just now being able to decide on, what I want my themes to be, how I want my themes to influence or affect my characters, and how to weave these threads through a story. And once you get past that, this idea of introducing themes, you can really use them to make your story more interesting, to bring intrigue and conflict into your story. If you have a story that's just about love, that's all fine and good, but just having a theme of love doesn't imply conflict. Now, if you have a theme about love and isolation or loneliness, that implies conflict. I wrote a short story about this where I have this character who is really just not part of the pack, really isolated because of what he is and what he does, but he ends up falling in love. And it causes this conflict between my character's personal theme of isolation and the whole story's theme of love. Another one that I think is really common is this idea of free will and racism or prejudice. That's really common, and that implies conflict. That's our own history in America, is we have this idea of free will, but then we had just a brutal history of racism and prejudice that's still apparent today. That adds conflict into a story. Another one is you have loss of innocence and manipulation. This is a great theme, and it's actually in Game of Thrones. You have Sansa Stark, who is losing her innocence, and then you have Peter Baelish, who is trying to manipulate her. And it causes this conflict and tension, and it really breathes life into a story. And, I like to use real-world examples when I'm talking about this kind of thing. And I think that's why theme has been so hard for me, is because I can't look at my life and pick out, 3 running themes, because it changes all the time. Life isn't like a story, isn't like a fiction story. A fiction story is supposed to all fit together and make sense. And themes help us do that. So it's really hard to compare to real life. It's really hard to nail this sort of idea down until you actually start putting it into practice. It makes a story feel whole. Another great thing about theme is if you are writing a ensemble cast sort of story, you have multiple POVs, you can have a different running theme for each character. I had a story where I had 3 different POVs. One of the characters' running themes was family, her relationship with her mother. A theme for my other character was this idea of knowledge and exploration and the dangers of finding knowledge. And then another character, his theme was manipulation. He was being manipulated by his mother. So it's, when people say you're writing a story with multiple POVs, you really want the voices of these different characters to be distinct. That's the best way for your reader to tell them apart. But another thing that can add to that can make these characters different, that can help your reader know whose section they're reading, is to have a different theme. And this comes back around to character. Who would have thought? Knowing your characters and knowing what's important to them will help with this idea of theme. What's your character's theme? And I've actually begun adding this to my character guides. What is the theme of this character's life at this moment in time? And then you can have different themes that applies to all of your characters. They'll run through the whole story, but whatever. So if you are like me and you're having a problem with this idea of theme, my big tip is to practice with short fiction. The best thing about short fiction is it's short. So, I've always said that short stories aren't necessarily easier than writing novels, but it is easier to introduce this idea of theme into a short story because you can, in less time, really weave these threads in, sort of introduce this idea of, loneliness in every single scene, or introduce this idea of chaos versus order into every single scene, or you can introduce this idea of love into every single scene. Great practice. So that's all I have for you guys today on theme. If you have any questions, please drop them below in the comments. I think I'm going to start uploading videos on Thursdays because Fridays have just been way too busy and I've been way too tired to upload videos. Yeah, so that's going to happen. My resource for today is a list of literary themes just on Google because it's very helpful if you're trying to figure out what your story's about. And then I think I'm also going to link some interviews with a few editors-in-chiefs of some really renowned science fiction and fantasy magazines, just because I love what they have to say about story, and they read so many stories that their advice is literally just gold. So those resources will be linked in the description box. If you have any questions, like I said, comments, and if you have any video requests, please tweet me at Camille A. Singer. Also, if you have, I already said video topic requests, please request video topics because my brain's been doing some stuff and my ideas are just kind of like floating away and it's horrible. So anyways, thanks for watching. I will see you guys next week. But for now, as always, you should be writing stuff.